The alien vampire had no one left until he gave up everything for her. Whispers in the wasteland. The world hadn't spoken in 3 years. Nyx Vero knew silence intimately, the hollow kind that hung in abandoned shopping malls, the eerie stillness of empty highways, and the dangerous quiet that preceded something worse. This wasteland had taught him that silence meant survival. Make noise and you die. Simple as that. Tonight, however, the silence broke. A soft scraping sound, irregular footsteps, too light for the feral packs that roamed the outskirts, too deliberate for falling debris. Something or someone was moving through the ruins of the old hospital across the street. Nyx pressed his back against the cold concrete wall of his temporary shelter, a former pharmacy whose medicines had been looted long ago. His fingers tightened around the handle of his hunting knife, its blade blackened to prevent reflection. 3 years of solitude had honed his instincts to a razor's edge. Whatever was out there wasn't human, he was certain of that much. The last human he'd encountered had tried to slit his throat for a can of beans. That was 14 months ago. The footsteps stopped. Nyx held his breath, counting heartbeats. 10 seconds, 20. Then a figure emerged from the hospital's broken entrance. She moved like someone sleepwalking, unsteady, disoriented. Even in the dim moonlight, something about her was immediately wrong. Her skin seemed to absorb the darkness around her, yet somehow gave off a faint luminescence, like disturbed algae in nighttime waters. Her hair, long and platinum with an unusual violet tinge, floated around her head as if underwater despite the still air. Most disturbing were her eyes, large, almond-shaped and burning with an internal light that shifted between amethyst and silver. They weren't just inhuman, they were ancient, like looking into the gaze of something that had watched civilizations rise and fall. Nyx didn't move, didn't breathe. The woman, if that's what she was, swayed on her feet, her gaze unfocused. Then, without warning, her knees buckled. Every survival instinct screamed at Nyx to turn away, to retreat deeper into his shelter. Strange meant dangerous, different meant death, and yet. He moved toward her, knife still ready. The woman lay crumpled on the broken asphalt, her chest barely rising with shallow breaths. Up close, he noticed strange markings along her neck and wrists, not tattoos, but something like iridescent scales that caught the moonlight. Her clothing wasn't cloth but something that seemed alive, shifting subtly across her form. "What are you?" Nyx whispered, more to himself than to her. Her eyes fluttered open at his voice. For a moment they seemed to focus, truly focus on him. Her lips parted, revealing teeth too sharp to be human. "Help," she rasped, her voice like wind through dried reeds. "Please." Then those strange, luminous eyes rolled back, and she was unconscious again. Nyx cursed under his breath. After everything, after the fall, after the purge, after learning to survive alone in a dead world, he was going to die because he couldn't walk away from an obviously dangerous, obviously non-human woman collapsed in the street. "This is how horror movies start," he muttered, sliding his arms beneath her. She was surprisingly light, almost hollow-boned and cold, so cold it burned against his skin. His bunker was 50 feet beneath what had once been a small community bank. The vault door, reinforced with scraps of metal and mechanical traps, had kept him safe for almost a year. It wasn't home, nowhere was home anymore, but it was secure. Nyx laid the strange woman on his cot, a narrow military-style bed with threadbare blankets. In the harsh light of his solar-powered LED lamps, she looked even less human. Her skin had a subtle pattern to it, like the finest porcelain with hairline fractures running just beneath the surface. The strange scales at her neck pulsed slightly with what he assumed was her heartbeat. Her breathing remained shallow and irregular. Whatever she was dying. Nyx ran a hand through his unkempt dark hair, packing the small confines of the vault. Water, food, medicine. What did you offer a creature that wasn't human? Her eyelids fluttered again, and this time when they opened, her gaze tracked him with desperate intensity. You, she said, her voice stronger but still strange, as if she were speaking through liquid. Human. Last time I checked, Nix replied warily, keeping his distance. What are you? She tried to sit up but failed, collapsing back onto the cot. My name is Lyra. That's not what I asked. A weak smile touched her lips, revealing those two sharp teeth again. No, it's not. Nix leaned against the opposite wall, knife still in hand. Are you going to hurt me? The question seemed to genuinely surprise her. I don't want to, she whispered. Not very reassuring. Honesty rarely is. Fair point. Nix studied her, noting how the strange luminescence beneath her skin had dimmed. Whatever she wasn't faking her weakness. He'd survived this long by being cautious, but also by trusting his instincts. What do you need? He asked finally. Lyra's strange eyes locked onto his. She swallowed hard, and Nix noticed how she looked at his neck, his wrists, not with the predatory assessment he'd expected, but with something like shame. Sustenance, she whispered. I have water, some canned food. No, she closed her eyes briefly. My kind, we need, life essence. Nix tensed. Blood, you mean? She nodded almost imperceptibly. I will not take it by force. I would rather fade than become what they think we are. The hunters, they followed me here to your world. Her voice was growing weaker. I've been running so long. Nix's mind raced. 3 years ago, the world had changed overnight. The official reports, before communications collapsed, called it a pandemic, a terrorist attack, a mass hallucination. Then came the purge, when the strange beings appeared and began systematically eliminating humans. Most people called them demons or angels of death. But Nix had seen one up close once, hiding in the ruins of a school. It wasn't like Lyra at all. It was something mechanical and organic at once, with eyes that glowed crimson instead of her shifting violet silver. You're not one of them, he said slowly. The things that destroyed us. No, she whispered, I am what they hunt. Silence fell between them. Outside, the wind picked up, whistling through the broken city above. Nix weighed his options. She could be lying. This could be an elaborate trap, but something in those ancient eyes spoke of a loneliness that matched his own, the look of someone who had been running for too long. With deliberate slowness, Nix rolled up his sleeve, exposing his forearm. If you kill me, he said quietly, you'll die here too. No one will find you, no one will help you. Lyra's eyes widened. You would offer. I'm offering a deal. You get enough to survive, not a drop more. And then you tell me everything, what you are, why they're hunting you, and what the hell happened to my world. She studied him, and for a moment, Nix felt like she was seeing through him, past skin and bone to something deeper. I accept your terms, she said finally. Nix approached cautiously, knife still in his other hand as he extended his arm. Her cold fingers wrapped around his wrist with surprising gentleness. She hesitated, giving him one last chance to pull away. He didn't. When her lips touched his skin, the world shifted. Not physically, something deeper, fundamental. The air between them seemed to hum with energy that hadn't been there before. Nix gasped, not from pain but from the strange sensation of connection that flowed between them. Beneath his skin, his veins illuminated with golden light that traced pathways up his arm. Lyra made a small sound of surprise and pulled away, her eyes wide with shock. What was that? Nix demanded, looking at his arm where the golden light was already fading. Lyra stared at him in disbelief. Impossible, she whispered. You're. The ground above them rumbled. Dust shook free from the ceiling of the vault. Lyra's expression transformed from wonder to terror in an instant. They've found me, she said, struggling to sit up. We need to leave now. What's happening? Nix demanded, but he was already gathering his emergency pack. Lyra stood on unsteady legs, her strength partially restored. The look she gave him was grim. The hunters are here, and now they're not just hunting me. Her gaze dropped to his arm where the golden light had been. "They're hunting you too." "Why would they?" Another rumble, stronger this time. Something heavy crashed to the ground above them. "Because," Lyra said, her voice steady despite her fear, "you're not entirely human, Nyx Veron, you never were. And now they know it." The vault door shuddered as something massive slammed against it from the outside. Their time had run out.
Hunters from the void. The vault door wouldn't hold much longer. Metal groaned under repeated impacts, the reinforced hinges beginning to separate from the frame. Whatever was on the other side wasn't just strong, it was methodical, testing the door's weakest points with calculated precision. "The emergency tunnel," Nyx said, pulling aside a worn rug to reveal a narrow hatch in the floor. "It leads to the subway system." Lyra moved with renewed purpose, her earlier weakness partially abetted by the small amount of Nyx's blood she had consumed. As she helped him lift the heavy hatch cover, her eyes flickered to his arm where golden light had briefly illuminated his veins. "You still owe me answers," Nyx reminded her as they descended into the darkness below. The tunnel was barely wide enough for his shoulders, requiring them to move in single file. "Yes," she agreed, her voice solemn. "But first, we survive." Above them, the vault door finally gave way with a thunderous crash. Nyx pulled the hatch closed behind them and slid a heavy bolt into place. It wouldn't stop their pursuers for long, but every second counted. They moved swiftly through the narrow passage, guided by Lyra's natural bioluminescence and Nyx's small flashlight. The air grew damper as they descended, thick with the scent of mildew and rust. "What were those things back there?" Nyx asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sentinels," Lyra replied. "Hunters created to track down and eliminate my kind. And now, apparently, yours as well. I told you, I'm human." Lyra glanced back at him, her eyes glowing in the darkness. "Are you?" she asked simply. Before Nyx could respond, a distant sound echoed through the tunnel, methodical, heavy footsteps. The sentinels had found the hatch. They quickened their pace until the narrow passage finally opened into the wider expanse of an abandoned subway tunnel. Ancient train cars lay derailed and rusting, their windows shattered, graffiti from before the fall still visible on their metal sides. "This way," Nyx said, leading them eastward along the tracks. "There's a maintenance hub about half a mile ahead. We can regroup there." As they moved through the darkness, Nyx felt something strange, a heightened awareness of his surroundings, as if he could sense the exact dimensions of the tunnel around them despite the limited light. His hearing seemed sharper too, picking up the faint drip of water from ceiling pipes and the scurrying of rats far ahead. "What's happening to me?" he asked, his voice tight with controlled fear. Lyra's expression was grim. "The dormant parts of your genetic structure are awakening." "What does that mean?" "It means," she said carefully, "that your ancestors were not entirely human. The connection we formed when I took your blood, it triggered something that has been sleeping inside you for generations." They reached the maintenance hub, a large circular chamber with several tunnels branching outward like spokes on a wheel. Nyx secured the heavy sliding door behind them, engaging the manual locks. "That's impossible," he said, turning to face her. "I had a normal life before all this. Parents, a job, nothing special." "Normal is relative," Lyra replied, her voice softening. "Your kind and mine, our histories are more intertwined than you know." She sat on a rusted workbench, her otherworldly features stark in the beam of Nyx's flashlight. For the first time, he noticed patterns across her skin that resembled constellations, shifting slightly as if alive. "I come from what you would call another dimension," she began. "My people, the astral, existed alongside yours for millennia, though most humans never knew it. We need the life essence of sentient beings to survive, but we took it sparingly, never harming our hosts." "You're talking about vampires," Nyx said flatly. A small smile touched Lyra's lips. "Your myths about blood drinkers came from somewhere, didn't they? Though your stories twisted the truth." We were never undead monsters. We were guardians of the space between realities. And these sentinels? Lyra's expression darkened. Centuries ago, some of my kind grew impatient with our careful approach. They began taking more than they should, causing harm. In response, a faction of humans with advanced knowledge created the Sentinels, biomechanical hunters designed to eliminate the astral. But they didn't stop there, Nyx guessed. No, Lyra confirmed, her eyes distant with old pain. The Sentinels evolve with each kill. They grew more powerful than their creators intended, eventually turning on all humans with any trace of astral genetic material. Which apparently includes me, Nyx said, looking down at his arm. The veins beneath his skin seemed to pulse with a faint golden light when he concentrated on them. 3 years ago, Lyra continued, the Sentinels found a way to break through the dimensional barriers completely. They came through in massive numbers, determined to exterminate both our species. The fall, Nyx whispered. That's what really happened. Lyra nodded. I had been hiding on Earth for decades, running from my own people after I spoke against their increasingly reckless feeding. When the Sentinels came through, I was already here, watching as they systematically destroyed your civilization. A distant crash echoed through the tunnels. The Sentinels were getting closer. Why didn't you warn us? Nyx demanded, anger flaring. I tried, Lyra said, her voice pained. The few humans I approached either didn't believe me or tried to kill me, seeing only a monster. She met his gaze directly. Until you. Nyx paced the small chamber, processing everything. So what am I exactly? Some kind of human-astral hybrid? Long ago, there were unions between our kinds, Lyra explained. Children of those unions often appeared entirely human, but carried astral genetic markers that remained dormant unless activated by contact with one of my pure-blooded kind. And when I let you feed, the connection woke something that has been sleeping in your bloodline for generations. She stood, moving closer to him. Your blood tasted like home, like something I haven't encountered in centuries. You are directly descended from one of the most powerful astral houses. Nyx laughed bitterly. Great. So I'm part alien vampire. That's just perfect. Another crash, this one closer. The Sentinels were methodically checking each branching tunnel. We need to keep moving, Lyra urged. Wait. Nyx grabbed her arm. You still haven't explained why they want me. If there were other hybrids, why target me specifically? Lyra hesitated. Because you're the last, she finally said. The Sentinels have been thorough in their extermination. Every other being with astral genetic material, pure or hybrid, is gone. We are the last of our kinds, Nyx.
The weight of her words settled over him like a physical burden. The last, everyone else like him, people who never even knew what they were, systematically eliminated. How do we stop them? He asked. We don't, Lyra said simply. We run, we hide, we survive. That's not good enough, Nyx growled, and was startled when his voice came out different, deeper, resonating with a power he didn't recognize. His skin tingled, the golden light beneath it growing brighter. Lyra stared at him, her expression a mixture of awe and concern. The changes are happening faster than I expected. Nyx held up his hands, watching as the strange light pulsed beneath his skin, following the pathways of his veins. He could feel strength flowing through him, senses sharpening further. Sounds from distant tunnels suddenly became clear, the methodical movements of the Sentinels, their strange clicking communication. What's happening to me? He demanded. Your dormant astral nature is awakening, Lyra explained, her voice urgent. But without proper guidance, the transition could kill you. Your body wasn't prepared for this. As if confirming her words, a sharp pain lanced through Nyx's chest. He doubled over, gasping as the golden light beneath his skin flared brighter, then began to fade erratically. You need more of my essence to stabilize the transformation, Lyra said, rolling up her sleeve. My blood can help guide your awakening. No, Nyx gasped through the pain. You're already weakened. If you die, I die anyway, she countered. The Sentinels will find me eventually without your help. Before he could protest further, she drew one sharp nail across her wrist. Her blood wasn't red but a luminescent violet, glowing like liquid starlight. Drink, she commanded. The maintenance chamber door shuddered under a heavy impact. The Sentinels had found them. Nyx looked from the door to Lyra's bleeding wrist, then made his decision. He took her arm and brought it to his lips. The moment her blood touched his tongue, the world exploded into sensation. It wasn't just taste, it was sound and color and memory all at once. Visions flooded his mind, a world of crystalline cities suspended in perpetual twilight, beings of light moving through vast spaces, wars fought with weapons of thought and energy, and finally Lyra fleeing through a tier between realities, pursued by shadows with burning red eyes. He pulled away, gasping, as the door to the chamber buckled inward. Through the growing gap, he caught his first clear glimpse of a sentinel, humanoid in basic shape but wrong in every detail. Its body was a seamless fusion of organic material and machine, covered in a black exoskeleton that absorbed light. Where a face should be was a smooth oval plate with 3 glowing red sensors arranged in a triangle. It reached a clawed hand through the gap in the door, the metal screaming as it was peeled back like paper. But Nyx was changing too. The pain had subsided, replaced by a surge of energy that felt like electricity coursing through his body. The golden light beneath his skin stabilized, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. When he looked at his hands, they were subtly different, stronger, the fingers slightly elongated, nails hardened into something like claws. He could see energy now, life force itself, flowing through Lyra beside him, through the rats hiding in the walls, even the weak electromagnetic fields of the abandoned equipment around them. They can be killed, Lyra said, rising to her feet with renewed strength. Their energy cores are located here. She touched the center of her chest. The door gave way completely, and 3 sentinels entered the chamber with mechanical precision. They moved with unnatural speed, spreading out to surround them. Run, Nyx asked, dropping into a fighting stance he somehow knew instinctively. Lyra smiled, her teeth now visible as sharp fangs. I've been running for centuries, she said. Perhaps it's time to stand and fight. The lead sentinel raised its arm, which transformed into a weapon, part blade, part energy projector. Its sensors focused on Nyx, and for the first time one of them spoke, its voice a dissonant combination of mechanical tones and organic sounds. Anomaly detected, hybrid entity, priority target. Nyx felt something ancient and powerful rising within him, knowledge and abilities that had been dormant in his blood for generations. He raised his hand instinctively, and golden energy gathered in his palm. I'm not just a hybrid, he growled. I'm evolution. He released the energy in a focused blast that caught the lead sentinel square in the chest. The creature staggered backward, its exoskeleton cracking to reveal circuitry and strange organic material beneath. Lyra moved with blinding speed, attacking the second sentinel. Her fingers elongated into razor-sharp claws that tore through the creature's armor like it was paper. Nyx felt like he was operating on pure instinct, his body knowing what to do before his mind could process it. He dodged an energy blast from the third sentinel, moving faster than he ever thought possible, then countered with another golden energy pulse that shattered the creature's sensor array. The wounded lead sentinel let out a high-pitched signal, not communication but a beacon. They were calling for reinforcements. We need to finish this quickly, Lyra warned, ducking beneath the second sentinel's blade arm. Nyx focused the strange new energy flowing through him, directing it into his hands as he lunged at the third sentinel. His fingers pierced its damaged armor, reaching the pulsing core at its center. The creature convulsed, as Nyx instinctively drew its energy into himself, absorbing its life force just as Lyra absorbed blood. The Sentinel collapsed, its red sensors going dark. Lyra dispatched the second creature with a precise strike to its core, leaving only the damaged leader. It backed away, sensors scanning them both. Anomaly exceeds parameters, it stated, recalculating threat assessment. Not so confident anymore, Nyx taunted, stalking toward it. The Sentinel did something unexpected, it self-terminated, its core imploding with a flash of red energy. As it collapsed, Nyx realized why. It was preserving its data, preventing them from learning more by examining it. In the sudden silence, Nyx became aware of how different he felt. Stronger, sharper, more alive than he'd ever been. The golden light beneath his skin had settled into a steady glow that illuminated the chamber. "What happens now?" he asked, looking at his transformed hands. Lyra approached him, her own wounds already healing. "Now we have a choice," she said. "We can keep running, stay hidden, maybe survive for years. Or," Nyx pressed. "Or we can find others like us," she said. "There must be some hybrids they haven't found yet, dormant carriers who don't know what they are. And what would we do with these hypothetical survivors?" Lyra's eyes gleamed with something he hadn't seen before: hope. "We build an army," she said simply, "and we take back both our worlds." Nyx looked down at the fallen sentinels, beings created specifically to hunt and destroy his kind, a kind he hadn't known existed until today. Then he thought of the empty, silent cities above, purged of human life by these mechanical predators. "This isn't going to be easy," he said. Lyra's lips curved into a smile that was simultaneously beautiful and predatory. "The best revolutions never are." In the distance, they could hear more sentinels approaching, drawn by the beacon. But for the first time since the fall, Nyx didn't feel the need to hide. The power flowing through him, the ancient astral genetics now fully awakened, filled him with a strange new confidence. "So," he said, golden energy gathering around his hands once more, "where do we start?" Lyra's eyes glowed brighter as she moved to stand beside him, facing the tunnel where the sounds of approaching sentinels grew louder. "We start," she said, "by surviving the night. Then we change everything." The maintenance hub had 5 tunnels leading out. The sentinels were coming through one. That left 4 possible escape routes. But as Nyx looked at Lyra, he realized they were thinking the same thing. They were done running. Together, they turned to face the incoming hunters, their bodies illuminated by gold and violet light, the last of their kinds, but perhaps the first of something new. The war for 2 worlds had just begun.